Champloo. We're back with episode 2 of Two Guys, One Couch. We just finished JP's second anime of all time, Samurai Champloo. And I gotta say, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It's my second time watching it now, and I definitely picked up on some things that I missed my first time around. So, I don't know, what did you think overall of it?
It was really, I liked it a lot. It was like a really good show just to kind of like sit back, chill, and relax.
Right.
Which is always nice. When was the first time that you watched it?
The first time I watched it was probably, I watched it on Funimation, I believe, or Hulu, so it wasn't when it was airing. I probably watched it in like 2015-ish, around there.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't right when it came out. Okay. I was kind of late to the punch there.
Yeah.
Well, we got a second bottle of wine, guys, because as tradition, we got to keep it up. This is Abbott's Table. I don't see anything other than Abbott's Table. Oh, it's Owen Rowe.
Does it say what kind?
Yeah, so it's a blend. It's a blend of 9 grapes.
Makes sense.
Special wine today. I've had this one once before at my past work. It's pretty good, so let's see how it is now. See if I remember it after I just had some mac and cheese. I don't know how that's going to pair with red wine.
I mean, it's got the fine cheddar cheese in it. So
it does have the fine aged Annie's mac and cheddar.
Right.
Oh,
you ever seen that Viceland guy who... You know what Viceland is, right?
I haven't watched much Viceland.
Yeah, well, there's this guy who only eats mac and cheese.
Really?
Yeah, it's disgusting, and it's only like the Velveeta kind too, where it's like just the
it's like a ooze,
fucking
a goo.
Ooze. Yeah, it's
a
not
goo
even like
cheese.
powder or real cheese, you know.
No, I love my mac and cheese. I used to love Velveeta back in the day until I realized that I didn't know what the hell it was.
Right.
It's like not even real cheese.
It's good kids food when you're not aware of things.
There we go.
There you go.
Like, would Velveeta still be considered cheddar?
Yeah, like it's a cheddar.
First.
It's a cheddar cheese for sure, but it's
a cheddar
flavored.
goo.
I don't know. It's not stuff I would eat. When I usually make, so like I always do like
that's crazy.
Kraft still. Looks good.
Kraft, yeah.
Like
you're an original guy, you know.
Like Mace Windu purple.
Right. Yeah. It's some dark wine right there. Yum.
Jedis are kind of like samurais.
Jedis aren't they modeled off of
space
samurais?
Yeah, it's like that, or they're like warrior monks. So like there is like a religious aspect to it for sure. That's good.
That's really good. Oh. Wow. So speaking of samurais, let's talk about some of the themes of Samurai Champloo, because it's definitely a different vibe to Cowboy Bebop. I mean, it has the same kind of overall arc in the storyline, you know, where it's not really
strangers meeting and
right. Yeah, it's kind of random.
And a crew
events.
comes together, a family comes together.
Exactly, but it's definitely, you know, it's not space and futuresque. It's kind of more of like a historical, like period era
quest
piece.
Almost.
Right.
Yeah, like it took me a couple times to start watching this show, mainly because I kind of was like still kind of watching Cowboy Bebop when I started it, and like rewatching some episodes because I enjoyed it so much.
Right.
And then, Connor told me there was this other show by the same guy. What's his name? Sorry.
Shinjiro Wantanabe. I don't know how to say his first name.
That he did, and another friend at work, at my work, told me about it as well, because I told him I was watching Cowboy Bebop. He's like, "Oh, you should check out this other show," and I was like, "No shit, I'm already watching it."
Right.
Aaron.
Shout out Aaron.
Yeah, he actually gave me this cool Japanese like hardcore band T-shirt called Blistered. I don't know if any of you guys know it out there, but it's like,
leave it in the comments, guys. Blistered. Who's listening to it? I'm sure Eric, if you're watching this, you've probably heard of them. You're a metal guy.
Yeah, and it's cool. Like, and I started watching Trigun too, which is awesome too, because like it's definitely got a metal.
I didn't even tell him to watch that.
Like an 80s rock kind of thing. But back to Champloo. Sorry. It took me a couple tries to like get into the show initially, because I thought it was definitely a little slower paced. I tried watching, I tried changing it up to and watched the dub version, mainly because it was because the thing about watching anime is that I've noticed is that the volume is so different. Like,
yeah,
the loud noises are so loud, and then the quiet like talking is like it's barely
right.
So,
even more so in like the older anime, because we haven't really watched a newer anime yet. Like this was 2005 or 6, right. I believe. Bebop was 97, so it kind of gets better with the dubs as you'll see. Like we're watching. Well, actually, I guess even Death Note, our next anime, is
Death Note's sick.
It's
like
sick,
it.
but
First two
that's
episodes,
only even like 2007 as well. So we haven't even broken into the 2000 teens yet.
Yeah, but A couple times I tried, not even like saying, oh, I don't like this show and I'm not going to watch it. It was more like, I just wanted to know what the fuck was going on, because like I was watching that kind of first 2 episodes again and again and again, which was really cool. The whole scene with like the cutting of Jin fighting those government officials and Mugen fighting those guys who I think the governor's son and his gang of douchebags in the hotel
cafe,
it services like people in many different ways. Probably.
Yeah, you'll see that a lot in this show. A lot of servicing in the red light district.
Right. But as the story went on, I like it. It was one of those more things where kind of like music, where music being a huge influence on the show and anime that I've noticed is like you kind of just learn to appreciate it for the style of the show when the story's kind of slow. And not to say it was bad or anything. There was just some episodes where I thought that the plot just wasn't moving along anywhere.
Right.
And they were kind of, which I mean, that's what happens in like life. And if it's, they're doing a standard like 26 anime episode show, like there's going to be some like downtime. But like the style of the show was awesome. Like, and it was definitely just a show where you could just kind of lay back and relax too.
Right. Yeah. Really this one's definitely, I think, even more so than Cowboy Bebop, about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have every so often, you'll get, that reminder that they're looking for the samurai that smells of sunflowers, but you'll have some spans where they don't even talk about it. It's like it's almost a completely new show at that point. Like, you're like, wow, we've had like 3 parts of this one series, and they haven't even mentioned the samurai that smells of sunflowers. No, and then they'll start their journey back. Yeah.
Never see him. He's only in like maybe 5 minutes of the show.
Yeah, 5 minutes of the show. They find him.
I knew they were going to definitely find him probably like in the last episode. But like, I don't know. It was weird. I was just like, oh, this is going to be a long time.
Right. And I think that part of the reason that for me Bebop is better is because like this show definitely has some episodes that are, I think, completely like not needed in a sense. It's like kind of almost filler, like the one with the graffiti.
Filler, no thriller.
Right, the graffiti guys. Like, I personally didn't really like that episode where they were like.
I know a lot of people do like that one.
Yeah, like it's definitely got its vibes.
And I know a lot of people don't like the baseball episode, but I
enjoyed that episode. Yeah, but that's another one.
They even name dropped Doubleday in there.
I
think, too.
Yeah, they got
it was during that period, and that's why I kind of liked it too, because like being a history guy and a history major in college, like it kind of did introduce me to some like a period of time in Japan that I didn't really know about. And like going to college, in New England, you don't get really an education of Eastern history, Asia, Asian, Japanese, Chinese history, unless you take like a political class where it talks about like communism and socialism and stuff like that. But
because all we talked about in our schooling was like philosophers, and that's it. That's
so
all.
When you don't have this like history sources in classes, where do you go? You go to movies. So like Last Samurai, and then movies like Pearl Harbor, unfortunately. But like it talks about it's Japanese history, like that's. But this just kind of introduced me to a whole different kind of period. Right,
and I think it's really cool I don't know how accurate it is because I'm not like a history buff on Japan, but it's a really cool period of time, I think, where it's like they're transitioning from being like an isolationist like country that is all about like samurais and like yakuza that run the whole country, and then they're kind of transferring from where like samurai are kind of on the decline, and they're allowing more influence from the outside world to come into the country with like Christianity as I mean, you see at the end the samurai.
Yeah, and that was really cool. I thought how they brought the whole Christianity and thing into that. And as we were talking about earlier, it would be a sweet next Assassin's Creed game. So
Japan,
if you're listening, Ubisoft, there you go.
Yeah, I'm sure they are at this point. So, but yeah, I think it's a really the Edo period of Japan is really interesting to me, and I kind of want to learn more about it. So if anybody knows any kind of other history-based anime, definitely recommend it below, comment it, because I'm really into that right now. So I would love to watch it. Yeah, so another thing that's really interesting in Champloo is the character themes and the sense of like opposite between Mugen and Jin.
It's like yin yang.
It really is like yin yang, and I think that is we didn't really have that, in my opinion, in Bebop. I think they all were so different, and it was a bigger group. Whereas in Champloo, it's a trio, and Fu doesn't really do anything the entirety of the series. So it's really centralized around Mugen and Jean being, the Champloo style and like the kendo kind of traditional samurai style.
Right.
And they have some other influences as well. So I think that's something that's definitely we got to talk about.
Yeah, and they're both considered Ronin, right? Because they're samurais without masters, right?
Yep.
I knew that was a term.
Kind of solo samurais, lone wolves.
Yeah, cowboys.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so like Mugen was so, aggressive, and like Mugen was so passive. Like it was crazy. Like there was that one episode where Mugen's literally doing all the legwork.
Yeah.
And Jin is just sitting in they're captured obviously, but he's not doing anything. But and like Fu's like worrying, and he just says,
Yeah, he
like,
doesn't
and
talk
that's
the whole
literally the
episode.
whole thing. That's all the dialogue he has for that whole episode.
Yeah, I mean, like they for sure, like Gene is kind of like so reserved, and I feel like he doesn't instantly result in like fighting every time. Whereas like Mugen, he's so outspoken, and I feel like his whole MO is just wanting to be the most badass, the toughest guy, and like he'll fight a whole town just to like pose a challenge.
Yeah,
it's
he's
really
all looking
cool.
for the challenge. Yeah.
Right. So who would you say out of like this series is your favorite character?
Definitely Mugen for sure. I mean, I know that's probably like the fan favorite, or the easy answer, but like he was the whole reason that the show like kind of worked for me, because he was just such a badass and would be funny. Like he brought kind of all different dynamics to the show, comedy, action, and then like his backstory is good. And stuff like I can't remember the episode where that girl comes in, and there was a plot line with her brother or something like that, and it's completely dropped. But it was like a really cool episode. I remember. I can't remember what it's called.
I can't remember either. Is that the one where like
It was like on like a beach somewhere. I remember the last.
Oh yeah, his history, his background, like the pirate guys, the one with the gun. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good episode.
That was a really good episode. Yeah.
What would you say your favorite character is?
My favorite character, as you guys know, I always kind of like side characters that are super impactful, but not really in it for long, or they're not considered really a main character in that stereotypical sense. So I chose Sarah. And for my reasoning of choosing her was both of these people, Mugen and Jean, they always were the strongest. They could beat anybody except for themselves. They were kind of perfectly evenly matched in that sense. And out of the entirety of the show, there was only one person that they couldn't defeat, and that was Sarah. And the only reason she lost is she allowed Mugen to kind of end her, because she realized her son was actually dead, and she had no way she had nothing left. There was no way to save him. But up until that point, like she beat both of them single-handedly, and I thought that was so cool, because it reminded me of Spike and his like search for exactly, because like this was the one person
going to figure out if he's really alive.
That drive, and they both kind of developed this drive to defeat her, and ultimately they couldn't, because she like decided to defeat herself.
It's probably one of the earlier moments too where they kind of like came together as well, like when they kind of were at each other's throats the entire show, and that was cool how they kind of found like companionship with like one another in the end. That was cool. Like they found a family, but then like were comfortable like separating, you know what I mean? Like they finally found friends, but like they did like enjoy their isolation as well, but they learned a lot. So that was kind of cool. Right.
Well, speaking of like the overall journey and whatnot throughout the show, what would you say your favorite episode was of Champloo?
So episode 9, I think it has two names for it. I have it right here. It's episode 9, Beatbox Bandits, or Evil Spirits of the Mountain Street. Basically, that was the episode where they found those. They were fighting those samurai out in the woods, and they had a bunch of like fucking pot like growing.
Yeah, the warrior monks.
And then they set it on fire in the end, and then they all got really high, and like there was that awesome scene. Like, I just remember like being like, what the fuck, when he's fighting, and then he like Mugen, and then like the colors all turn, and it looks like a Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds video.
Right.
And like he's like screaming like blah, and like he just floats up into the fucking sky on a rocket and like stars. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? And I was like, oh, now I remember why.
Yeah, They're all just high as shit.
Yeah, and they're all like just like all kind of freaking out in the field when Fu and Jin find them later.
Hey, it got them through the border.
So that was my favorite episode. Another good episode. I like the baseball one a lot. I like the zombie one a lot.
See,
that was very disorienting.
I didn't really like the zombie one. I felt like it just dragged on.
It did drag on, but like I think that was the whole point of it because like they didn't know how long they had been there for.
Right.
So maybe, but I mean, it still dragged on in our time. So
right.
Weird, but
like it wasn't. I didn't think it was awful, but it just kind of like every time I've seen it now, I just had like this vibe of I was like, meh.
Meh. Okay.
Yeah, you know, but it was all right.
And the last episode was really good. So.
Yeah, the last like trio,
part one,
three,
yeah, those were good.
Because that again, they fight like I can't remember his name, the assassin guy that the shogunate hired, the one that they both were fighting at the same time on the dock. That badass guy with like the wicker hat.
Yeah, he had the wicker hat on that you barely saw his eyes.
Right. He was super badass. I mean, he kind of beat both of them. I mean, Gene eventually beats him, but that was kind of a cool fight.
Yeah.
But for my favorite episode, I really, really liked the Hellhound for Hire episode. And that was the one where they split up. They like get to the town and they decide to separate from Fu and like just run away. And then Mugen ends up at this restaurant where he steals food from the Yakuza. And he ends up fighting them all in the street and beating them all. And the Yakuza boss ends up hiring him for a bodyguard. And then later in that episode, Gene ends up at the same restaurant.
Right, it just happens.
Happens to end up at the same restaurant.
Because reasons.
Right, and then he can't pay for his food, and the other Yakuza boss that is feuding with the one that Mugen got hired by hires Gene now. So it's like they both kind of end up in the same place, but on opposite sides.
Yeah.
And that episode I thought was really cool. Just I thought it had a lot of like historical moments of Japan where it was about like the Yakuza and like honor.
Oh yeah, so that was another
and how
kind of thing they brought in.
Right, how like some Yakuza clans turned bad, but you know in the history of Yakuza they originally were kind of peacekeepers in a sense. They were kind of like the police of cities and all in a way. So I thought that was a really cool episode.
Cool.
Yeah.
What were some other of your favorite episodes?
I did like the baseball one a lot.
It was pretty brutal. Like
it did, yeah.
Like it's like it's kind of your worst fears as a baseball player, to be honest. Like getting hit in the ribs, or like
But other than that, I think the first episode was really cool. Like,
yeah, no, that was definitely a good one too. Yeah. And I love that scene. Like it's like one of the first shots where it's like modern day like Tokyo or whatever, or like it's some urban city area, and then it goes backwards in time. You kind of see it, like
how it evolves.
Yeah, how it evolved over time, like in a couple seconds. It was really cool.
And I thought that was really cool too, because that was like the first experience we had of like Mugen and Gene fighting together. Like they end up at that cafe, and then they just are at it instantly. And then from that point on, they want to see who is more powerful, and then that kind of theme resonates throughout the entirety of the series until they ultimately become friends and realize that they can't beat each other.
Yeah. They're like laying in the ground there, like all beaten up. I thought they had both died after.
I did too, yeah.
Like kind of the epilogue started, like after the Yakuza assassin like got killed and that whole scene, and Jin comes back. So I thought both of them were gonna die at that point.
Right.
And then I thought they were both gonna die when they finally had their battle, when their swords broke or whatever. And that was really cool. Yeah.
I mean, they do make you feel like they're both gonna die, and after seeing Cowboy Bebop and like, you know, Spike at the end of that, you realize Wantanabe is not scared to kill off a main character. So you're like, are they gonna die at the end of it? But then he kind of like, it's kind of a bittersweet ending for me, because it's happy in a sense where everybody survives and they made their goals, but it makes you want them to stay together as like a trio and continue on with life as a group, but they all go off in their separate ways. But at the same time, from this journey, they've created a sense of being and a sense of worthiness, a sense of purpose to live. Whereas before that, they were by themselves with no purpose. They were just depressed, moving through life, and now that they've met each other and had all these experiences, they can now live their life while not being together. They can live their lives with happiness. Yeah, which in a way is a happy ending.
We all need it.
Right, especially now.
All right, so one of our other reoccurring things on this podcast is going to be recasting like the show for a featured film. So, and this one was tough because like we don't know a lot of Japanese actors and stuff. So we are kind of like just recasting it in a way, you know, like we're gonna have connections to, and like I think like Cowboy Bebop as well definitely connects with a Western audience as well. So like it could be a show, or you know, that could be turned into a movie. I think over here for sure, especially with like all the hip hop stuff into. And I didn't. That was last night scrolling through when we were looking for Death Note or whatever. They did a live action remake too, right?
A lot of them nowadays are, because anime is getting so big, especially from YouTube, honestly. And if you guys haven't checked out my video with Sugoi Media, definitely check out that one, because she's creating a lot of things that are going to be huge for the anime industry. So definitely check that out. But through YouTube and anime YouTubers, like for sure in the Western audience, there's a growing desire for various animes.
It's all the growth of the internet.
Right.
It's getting the media over here faster and
Exactly.
to a different audience. You know, kids.
Exposure.
Kids definitely, I think, are definitely liking it more again. So it's good to see. So for Mugen, who do we go with again? Oh yeah.
Yeah, we went the guy from Walking Dead.
Walking Dead, Norman Reedus,
Norman
Daryl
Reedus.
Dixon. I think he'd be a cool choice because
He's got some spunk.
he's got some spunk when needed. He was like thinking of Boondock Saints. Like he was definitely the cockier of the brothers in that. I thought, you know, with the stupid fucking rope. I remember that. But then he also like that Daryl Dixon complex where he's kind of that lonely guy out in the woods, kind of getting on. He's kind of a dick. He's kind of a prick. He doesn't like, and like over time he also like finds a family and Rick and all of them. So like a lot of parallels I thought with those characters maybe, and I was like maybe that could be a casting. He's kind of got the hair. I could see it.
He's wild too.
Wild too,
He's like, he's got that rambunctious side of him. Think of another good one. So I think we lock it.
We only kind of came up with one for each of them. The next one for Jin, I thought Adam Driver was a really good choice. Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
But he's honestly getting more. He's getting more recognition from more like other things he's been in.
Yeah, I mean he's a great actor, and
Marriage Story was so good. I thought.
Yeah, like Star Wars just allowed him to kind of burst onto the scene.
He's already like 35 too, so he's not even that young, and he's like.
I didn't know he's that old.
Yeah, because he was in the Marines for a couple of years, and then he like drove out to LA. I don't know. I listened to a really cool podcast he did, or like a kind of like a TED talk he did. About like his career in film and stuff like that. It was really cool.
He's good, yeah.
But yeah, like he could bring out that anger in Jin that sometimes does get unleashed, like when we see in episodes that talk about his past with his former master and stuff like that. But he also has that collectiveness, I think, because I mean, not from what we've seen him playing Kylo Ren, because like there's so many scenes where he just kind of rage quits things, but like he's so.
Sturdy
he's sturdy, tall as well. Because I think like Jin's a very tall, lanky guy, and like black hair, and just like I don't know, like he sometimes just has that face of like nothing, like there's nothing on his mind or anything like that.
The void.
Yeah.
We couldn't come up with.
I think that was a really good one. Oh, for Fu.
Yeah.
Well.
I couldn't think of anybody.
Well, yesterday, remember we were talking?
Oh, who was it?
Brenda Song from
Sweet
Life of Zack and Cody.
Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. London Tipton.
London Tipton, because we're just like, oh my God, it's perfect, like, because she's so annoying and like
Wendy
other
Wu.
things we've seen her in, like other Disney shows. She was always funny though. I always thought, like, I always loved her characters, but like, yeah, it just be annoying little fucking.
Fu didn't add anything to this series. Let's be honest.
No, she was
basically the equivalent of Plank from Ed, Ed and Eddie. I mean.
Yeah, she was rough. I mean,
Fu
she gets a lot of bad. Yeah, I know. She gets a lot of bad rap, but like she was a necessary
She brought them together
in the show, right?
She brought them together. We wouldn't have had. There's no Champloo without
the whole coin flip thing.
Yeah, there's no Champloo without Fu.
So, can't
knock her too hard, I suppose.
I guess. And another one we threw in there too was Ken Watanabe as
the samurai,
the sunflower samurai.
Which sunflowers don't have a smell.
Right.
Do they? Can anybody tell me what they smell like?
So where did that connection come from again? I don't remember.
I think it was because when they finally
there was like a
him,
really weird. I can't remember, but there was an explanation where you're like,
was there?
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I mean the only
like,
connection.
I think it was because it was like. because they don't smell, you'll never find him or something like that.
Really?
It was something along those lines.
But like there was people throughout the show where she would say that it's the samurai that smells like sunflowers, and
Well,
they'd be like, I know
kinda-
who you're talking about.
Well, because I think he kind of like created a
right.
mythos or something like
Right,
that.
okay, that makes sense.
But Ken Watanabe, I mean, if you got to go like as a legendary samurai, you got to go with the last samurai. So
right.
and like it'd be like a cool like reveal at the end of the film where it's like building up who this guy is gonna be, and it's like a big time actor. It's always something cool films
Right.
can do sometimes.
I think it's a good one. I mean, there's not really any other characters that are big enough to
Nope.
come up
One
with.
like I guess like maybe the Yakuza like assassin at the end maybe, but I didn't think of anything.
Yeah, it's not. I feel like it's kind of. We only really do it for the main characters.
It'd be cool too, like for the soundtrack, another huge. And I honestly, I kind of liked the soundtrack equally as Cowboy Bebop in this one.
Yeah.
Just because it kind of like introduced me to like lo-fi, because it's like actual lo-fi,
Right.
where like Cowboy Bebop is like you can find on YouTube like lo-fi inspired by Cowboy Bebop, but like this actually has lo-fi in it, or is it lo-fi? I don't know.
I call it lo-fi.
I call it lo-fi because it
I call
sounds
it lo-fi.
better.
Yeah.
Lo-fi kind of just sounds.
Yeah, I mean,
like
would
it's
you say
lo-fi.
Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi, right? Just whatever sounds better.
Right.
But, and I think it would be cool, like in the movie, if they got like a lot of like American and Japanese like rappers together and like kind of came up with some music.
I
for
like
it.
Japanese rap, honestly. Like,
Yeah, it's good.
I'm not a huge fan of rap, like American rap. Like I like some of it. It's not like I won't listen to it, but it's not my preferred music. But in Japan, like when I watch stuff like Devilman Crybaby or this, and they have like rap scenes, I think that it's like kind of catchy.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah, and like it has a good bop to it. It's very boppy, hip hop.
So final thoughts about the show. I think that this show gets, and I think, I mean, and from what I've seen from other YouTubers and reviewers talk about it, and what we just did now, I was noticing it gets compared a lot to Cowboy Bebop, and I think it's just because the time period it came out in, the creator of the show, the kind of the style and the music, like the music influenced, like I think it just gets really entangled with that, and I think Cowboy Bebop, like most people consider that the more superior show. So like this one gets like a lot of like, it's like it's good, but it's not as good as Cowboy Bebop. But it's a very, very good show. There's nothing wrong with it really. Like it's slow at times,
Right.
but like what show isn't slow at times?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like Game of Thrones is slow at times. Breaking Bad was slow at times. Like The Sopranos were slow at some times.
Right.
Like
So you give it your stamp of recommendation.
oh yeah, for sure. Like because someone getting into anime just like myself is kind of like looking for something new to try, and like I think the laid back aspect of this show is like really, really relaxing.
Right.
And like how can
Right.
I think it's hard to kind of stay away from.
Yeah, I mean, some people kind of like when I made my curated list of what I was gonna have JP watch to get into anime. Some people kind of didn't like the list because they thought it wasn't indicative of what most anime are. But when I created this list, I had that kind of in mind of somebody that's never seen anime before and kind of easing them into like the anime world, and I think that's what these shows are. They're two anime that were made with the thought of appealing to a Western audience, and I think they do that in a great sense.
Right. Because we are a Western audience.
We
so
are,
like,
yeah.
there's certain things that we're accustomed to that, not that we expect in shows, but that we are drawn to in a
Right.
sense.
And I think both of these do a great job.
Yeah.
But I also agree with you. I think this is a recommend. I would hard recommend this show. And I do think that when anybody is asked about Samurai Champloo, their first thing they say is, it's not Cowboy Bebop,
Right.
but it's good.
But
and
it's good.
I mean...
It's a great show.
Right.
It's not good, it's great. But
Yeah,
it's
it
just,
is.
it's hard to compare something to, you know,
Yeah.
the Holy Grail or whatever.
Right, and unfortunately that's what happens to directors. I mean, look at Tarantino. Like, once you make something, everything's compared to like, oh, it's not Pulp
Everything's-
Fiction,
right,
but it's
everything's
good.
compared to
I
Pulp
mean,
Fiction.
you know,
Even though Reservoir Dogs is better. by the
yeah,
way.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I mean, there's
That
plenty.
too.
But I give this show, I think I give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Yeah.
I was going to go with a 7.7.
Oh, and
Double
now
sevens.
that you've seen 2 animes, going on to his third, I think it's about time JP gets his own Mal List.
What's that?
It's an app for your phone and on the computer called
really?
My Anime List. It's the IMDb of anime. And you can create your own account and then you add as you watch shows and it creates a
'cause there's so
database.
many.
Yeah. So I think it's about time JP gets one of those.
All right.
And
Send me the link.
yeah, it's an app you
Oh,
just
it's an
download.
app, okay.
Yeah. But
Sounds good.
I think this show has an 8.5 on IMDb, I
Yeah,
believe.
sounds about right.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed, guys. This is episode 2 of Two Guys, One Couch. Next time, we will be here talking about
Death Note.
Death Note.
I'm also watching Trigun at the time, so I guess
Trigun.
whatever I finish first.
Yeah. So we'll talk about maybe both. I mean, we'll probably split it up into 2 videos. That'd be a little too long. But
Right.
I'm excited for him to watch Death Note because that's one of my top anime, and I think that's the anime that has entrapped the biggest audience in America because it got promoted on Netflix pretty hard, and it's really intense.
Yeah, the first 2 episodes were really enjoyable. Like,
Right.
it was a lot of information being thrown at you because of all the rules and stuff. But
Right.
like, just wow.
Right.
That L character is crazy.
Exactly, and I think this one is the first anime out of the list that we're watching that is really has a lot of common anime tropes, like the overloading of information and having like restrictions and rules on things. That's a common theme in anime where it's like a lot of it's intellectual. So it's cool that you enjoy that, and it's only going to get better from here.
Badass.
But stay tuned, guys. Stay healthy and stay safe. Love you. Cool.